Hey everybody, welcome to the shop here at Tusa Acres. In today's video, I'm going to be putting some stainless steel exhaust pipes on this old 88 Centurion here. Let me show you. So this is how the package arrived. It was about 300 bucks off of Amazon. But you can see it's getting pretty bad there on the back side here. Got some big holes in it. So I'm just about done making my tack clamp. You can buy these off of Amazon for like 30 bucks a piece, but I had the steel and the tools, so I'm making my own. I still have to tack on the end pieces, and I'll show you what that's for here in a minute. So before I go cutting the existing pipes off the truck, let's make sure that we got everything that we need to put new exhaust on it. We got four, they look like 4-footers. Let's check it. And this really should be quite a bit more than I actually need. Yep, 4-footers. You can do this just by clamping, using U-bolts. That's what the kit is made for as well. But I plan on TIG welding everything that I can, except for where the first part goes into the regular steel that's on the truck right now. They look nice mandrel bends. But yeah, you can slip them together and then clamp them, U-bolts. For those that don't know, this is what northern Michigan's like in January. Blowing and snowing. About 15 to 20 degrees out today. Really bad. Really bad. Okay, so I had to take myself to school to learn how to do the stainless welds, and they're okay. This is using a 16th inch tungsten and 16th filler rod. And then I realized that my initial gas lens kit, the biggest cup it come with was only a number 8. So not quite perfect or ideal for this situation. I bought this RX kit off Amazon, like 50, 60 bucks, something like that. Comes with a bunch of number 12 cups. One ceramic, number 12, and then a bunch of the Pyrex ones, which I actually prefer. So I've had much better luck with this kit now. I did a practice run, and yeah, it's not great. I mean, the welds as far as oxidation for the most part look pretty good, or no oxidation. But obviously they're not super straight, and I blew through in a bunch of spots. I did set up, I had to order a dual regulator, again from RX Weld. I can't quite justify, getting a Victor or something like that. So as far as the inside, other than a few little dusty areas, the actual welds, a little bit of oxidation. So I've already did the passenger side fit up. I'm pretty happy with it. A bunch of my tacks, not pretty there, but I did have a bunch of tacks that did work out. So I should be able to bury most of that. I'm not too awfully worried about it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fit up this side. I cut myself a whole bunch of pie pieces using the bandsaw, but I cut 9 degrees, two-sided 9 degrees. So I would take my pipe, put it in the bandsaw 9 degrees one way, and then turn the pipe 180 degrees in the bandsaw clamp, cut it again to get me these ones. And then to join those ones to straight pipe, I have straight cut on one side with a 9 degree. Because if you don't do that, your cuts will be at different, the total length of your outside cut, or the pipe on the outside, is longer on an angled cut, if that makes sense, meaning the hole is actually larger diameter. So if you take this, let's see, a flat one, or an angled cut like this one here, and go against a straight cut there, the fit up won't be perfect. It'll be just slightly over. See how there's a little bit of a gap there? Now, the two angles, you put the two angles together, it's even all the way around. You take flat, match that up to your pipe, then your double angled pie piece, put that on, and then another single angle. That way the outside is flat to match back up with the pipe perfectly. You can cut these at different lengths, different angles. I just found I just cut a whole bunch of random ones, but keeping a 9 degree. So some of them I'll make them this long, some will be this long, some are shorter. You can see how much shorter this one is. And that way I can get the corners and the radiuses that I'm looking for. This one, I'm gonna end up probably cutting it here to go that way. So I just make a little mark. This is not precision work here. And just keep in mind things like right now, the rear axle is all the way down. So when it comes up, this drive shaft is gonna be right about here. So, and then the pumpkin will be, you know, up here somewhere. So I need to go all the way up and over that pumpkin. I think I'm just gonna cut this 90 here. That'll give me 45 up and then 45 back. Now it's kind of oblong right now, and I don't know if that was squeezing it in that vise or not, but we're gonna try to squeeze it circular again. It's definitely better than it was. Okay, so now I got 245s all cleaned up, looking good. Okay, so if that one goes there, and that little piece can go there, and this other 45 can go on here and go that way. I like it. Okay, so now, and actually this one doesn't matter either, because I can rotate that piece without it affecting anything. So really the only thing we need is this piece and the angle I want on it. Okay, right there. I have also found that for these flash tacks, I have to crank up the amperage to basically like almost twice the amperage of my welding amperage. So this stuff is like 42 thou thick. It's like 18 gauge ballpark. So I was running around 42, 43 amps for welding. I tried the 2/3 or minus 10%. Just wasn't quite doing it for me and my machine. So I bumped it up a little bit until I got better welds. But with the tacks, I found I was just blowing through it if it didn't happen really fast. So again, I did blow through it. That's partly because of fit up. I found that I can do a little bit of a lay wire technique as well. But it's hard to do that while you're trying to hold the piece in place. So now I have my mark and my mark. Not the prettiest tacks, but they'll do. Yeah, I like that. So from here, it'll come out this way, down over that way. All right, I'm gonna keep trucking away at this, and I'll come back when I got a little bit more of it done. Okay, so I got the 2 new ones made, and I know I haven't showed you guys all that much of the fit up process. So I wanna make a change here, and I will show you that piece by piece. The pie pieces all worked out really well. Cutting those little 9 degree both sides worked out great. Go figure. The back side, the most visible side, I had burned through really bad on both sides. The most visible areas. Kind of got to do a little turn and wiggle, but it fits in. Just like that. This one I found just putting a little clamp here just to help keep it from sagging. Now both of these I just took some safety wire, wrapped it around here just as something to give it a little bit of support. Okay, so that's what I was talking about, that blow through right in the back side. Go figure. That's just trying to do tacks, and when your pieces aren't perfectly lined up. So it is what it is. I'll be able to fill it in. Probably be covered in mud most of the time. So I got the pipe basically perpendicular to the tire, which I like, and it's about a hand width below the bottom valance here. And both pipes are lined up pretty much in line with this bolt here, the front of the pipe. But this is what I'm worried about, right in here. Now I can scoot this a little bit. See that clearance right there? It's a little too close. And what's worse is that this rear leaf spring here, right now, all of the weight is off the rear axle, so it's hanging down as far as it can. And this is a movable shackle, so as the truck sits down, the axle is going to start coming up. That spring right there is going to go up and back at the same time. So this part right here, this lower helper spring, is going to run right into this. So I need to extend this section out and move this back to about here, I think. In line, you know, perpendicular to the tire. The edge of it's pretty much even with the edge of the truck. Got about a hand width, and all of that's going to be adjustable when I get the hangers mounted, which I do have the beginning of some hangers started up here. Right there, I cut some pieces already. Anyway, same thing on this side. Even if I lift it and push it back and up, it's still extremely close right there. So, all right, so I'm kind of doing a quick reset here. I got all set up to do a 25-degree angle cut, and then realized I can't go that far because of this. If I cut my angle, you know, something like that where it's really steep, when I go to put this against the flat chunk of pipe, see how much is sticking out there? You can get away with, or at least I've been able to get away with, like up to about a 10-degree cut. Then you can still get it to line up where, like this here, this is a 9-degree cut on each side. And you can get that to line up pretty close to a flat piece, square piece, and you can make that work. But when you get to this kind of an angle, it's just way too much. Got my line centered up, make sure she's square and snug. I'm going to give myself a cheat line where that 9 degrees was set up. Now I'll show you the cleaning process for these. You can see how many burrs are on it, inside and outside. And I found this to actually be just the simplest. Helps square off the edges. You can round it off on the corners here. Okay, and then when I'm done with the belt sander, grab a piece of Scotch-Brite. There. So now we'll take an extension piece, put the 90 on that. Two 12s together equal our angle from before, 24, and that'll straighten the pipe out to bring it straight back. So I need to cut 2 more of these now. This part right here, taking the time to make the proper pieces, proper cleanup, proper fitment, is by far the hardest part of this job. Maybe not even the hardest part, just the most tedious. But if it works out, it's going to be so cool. I gotta admit, these tacks are a lot stronger than I was expecting. Okay. All right, so I've just been using some blue painter's tape take a couple pieces and put my my pie pieces together just to hold them that way. And then I hold this up to where I want it. It's right there, and I like the way that looks. Get a straight section on here to come back to about there. Okay, so you can see that piece is taped in place now. So by holding it up here, I can get a rough estimate of where or how much of a mid piece I need to get it to where I want it. I wonder what it would look like without this re-angulation here. It'll give it a little bit of a kick out. I actually kind of like that. I just don't like this angle here. I wish I'd have done that differently. This pipe was coming down, so I angled this way to have a nice perpendicular, you know, like parallel to the ground look to it. So I'm thinking I can do the same thing, break it loose right here, put this 24 degree in basically, and that'll scoot this thing back to about here, but straighten this out, and then it'll angle the pipe back here a little bit. Again, 90 side should be flat against the pipe. Now I can take this one here, and I can rotate both until I get the desired angle. I'm sure there's a more mathematical way to do this rather than just fiddle farting around with it. All right, so I'm gonna try adding in a third pie piece here. This one is a 9 degree on both sides, so the 9 degree and the 6 degree are gonna be close enough to where I don't have to worry about it, but that'll give me extra flexibility as far as where it's even harder to hold on to as well, but it's easier to get the perfect angle when you have that third intermittent part. Yeah, I like that. Stay. Yep, that's it. Whew, that was a bugger. Alrighty folks, guess what? Next day, I'm finally ready to start welding. Almost. Sorry I didn't finish the fit up process. Took me another 4 hours, you know, doing that underside, not a big deal because you're going around and you got plenty of space. But the tail end, I wanted it to look even and the same, symmetrical on both sides. That took a while. Each piece individually, you know, trimming and adjusting and all that crap. But I think I got it to where I like it. So I got all of the joints taped up right now, except for this last one. And this is where I'm gonna start. This is under the truck. It'll give me a good head start. And I got tin foil covering one end with a wire wrap on it to keep it snug. Got my grounding strap. We're gonna purge this, and I'm gonna leave it in this position to purge. The argon will come in the bottom, work its way out, and I'll have a couple holes poked up here in the tin foil. And after about 5 minutes or so of probably 10 CFH argon, I'll go ahead and get it repositioned up on the sawhorses here. I like it, we're sticking with it. The little short welds there are the ones I just did. Now these are surprisingly narrow. Like I was expecting a wider bead, but that's gonna be plenty to fill up the gaps. So now I'm gonna poke a couple holes in the other end, turn on the gas. There's 12. Yep, I can feel it coming out. I am going to clamp each section, or clamp it so that it can't move around on me. Sitting on this bench and welding is kind of a pain in the butt. So this will put the workpiece at a standing height. I can rest on the pipe itself. Now I've noticed for me, wrapping the torch cord up and over my shoulder so it's not dragging down seems to make a pretty good difference. Guess what? Next day. So finished up last night. Geez, it was like 3+ hours of welding. And it turned out okay. My welds are solid, but it's not exactly purty. You know, I had some blowouts, so like this spot right here, right in here was a blowout, so I had to fill it in little by little as I was bringing it around. And that happened in several places, especially I had a couple while I was welding, like this really thin section right here, it burned right through that piece, so I had to double it up and go through it. Some of them, like right in here, I think turned out really nice. And then other ones, you know, I got a little too hot, a little too deep, a little too narrow. You know, getting that consistency down is really tough. Now, I did go ahead and take my little endoscope and run it up in there. So I'll throw that up right now so you can see what the insides look like. So the way I got this sealed up and purged seemed to work just fine. I was a little bit worried about heating up this tape as I got closer to it. And it did on a couple of them, especially like these closer ones. Like if I'm working on this one, it will heat up the tape a little bit, but it really wasn't bad. As I would get to the next spot, peel the tape off, and then I'd just take some tin foil, especially if there's some big blowouts on, like there's probably 2 or 3 joints in here. So I would wrap up the sides that had the big blowouts, fix around it, fix that blowout, and I had the end plugged up with, you know, I put those 2 little holes in the tin foil on the end. I'd just put a piece of tape over those holes while I was fixing up these big blowouts. And then once I had the big blowouts fixed, then I would go ahead and uncover my relief holes that I punched in the tin foil. And it seemed to work really good. And then each joint, as I got to it, I would unwrap it, Scotch-Brite it, hit it with some acetone, and then just get to welding and use the tin foil if I needed to. And my little clamp method here worked really good yesterday of keeping it in position. And for the most part, it was fairly comfortable. Now my wrist started hurting after a while, so I had to hold the torch head differently. I always use my right foot for the pedal, and after a couple of hours, you know, just standing on one leg so I could control the pedal with the right foot, that started get a little bit annoying, and I tried using my left foot, and it worked out okay. I will say that number 16 cup really gives you a lot of good coverage. You know, I can go basically as far as I can reach, you know, without turning the pipe, because I'm using that 16 cup. If I was using that 12, by the time I got, you know, more than 1.5 inches of weld bead down, the trailing edge would probably be out of coverage. So that it really did make a big difference. So I'm glad I got it. And then just work my way around. And I have found that wearing some readers really helps me. I'm almost 46, and yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing any closer than a foot from my face. When I'm clamping near a joint, I try not to clamp very hard, or I scoot it to where I'm clamping on the side of the pipe that is touching. That way I'm not splitting my tack welds. You definitely want to make sure this thing is secure. There was a couple times yesterday where I didn't have it clamped quite tight enough, and you know, like this bend here was up and I leaned on it and I started welding, and then all of a sudden the thing, you dunk your tungsten, and yeah. That was nice. And that's it. I'm just gonna keep going. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Shit. Dunk the shit out of that one. Of course. Turn the camera back on, 3 seconds in. Bam! It's only the second, maybe third time I've done that. And of course I yanked the thing up too quick, so that got oxidized. And for my sharpening technique, I just chuck the tungsten in a drill. I've got one of these little bench grinder dealios. Then I hit it on the abrasive side. All right, so a couple hours later, and I have to admit, I think I'm finally starting to get the hang of this. Much straighter, a lot less goobering up. There was a couple spots where, like right here, I had to fill in a hole. But overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. A couple thoughts, if you're gonna try to tackle something like this on your own. First, I would try to do in smaller chunks. You know, doing this big piece, trying to get it to lay to where you can get in a good position is cumbersome, to say the least. And I would definitely recommend getting as much practice as you can. You know, this was my practice and it shows, you know, and I'm okay with that. This is just a project for me to do. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully it doesn't rot out in 2 years. That would really be sad. I'm gonna do a double take on all of my seams. I was pretty careful as I was doing each one, so I'm not expecting to find anything, but I'd rather find it now while it's still hooked up and in position. Jeez. See what I mean by cumbersome? Ah, I found one. One little spot. It's barely an 1/8 inch wide. That was it. All right, next day, 3 times removed. I got caught up with another project. A buddy of mine skid steer. His tracks weren't gripping in the snow. All right, let's take a quick look at this. I think I'm done. So I just gotta get the jacks out from underneath and put some oil in it, and then we can start it up. But again, let's take a quick look at it. I'm pretty happy with it. So you can see both of them look pretty even, pretty straight. Where they stick out, how far down they are. That's by far the hardest part. I know I mentioned it earlier. You know, the rest of it, you can kind of just go as you want, as long as it's not interfering with anything or hitting anything. But getting those ends lined up just right so that they look the same angle, same height, you know, that kind of crap. All right, this has been a bigger project than I expected. I'm not gonna lie, if you're not up for a week or two of a learning curve and just frustration. So we'll start up here at the front. I decided to use just some U-bolts. And hopefully there's no issues. I put the clamp side up because you can actually see it below the truck. So it actually, you know, hangs down below, and I didn't want those bolts sticking out. Getting these brackets, I just welded on some stainless steel tabs and hooked into the existing bracket there. And I think it worked out just fine. Now I realized that on the inside of the pipe right here, I probably, because I wasn't purging it, so there's probably some oxidation there. And if you see that right there's some oxidation right there. That was my helmet stopped doing what it's supposed to do, my welding helmet, and all of a sudden I was seeing straight arc, and I yanked everything back. Yeah. Oh, hey, since we're right here, how about doing that for me? Would really help out. Appreciate it. All right, so going up and back, curves, everything, I like it. I'm really, really happy with it. I should have clearance on both sides. If you look back through there, you can see the pipe is cleared of the leaf spring. We'll get a better look at that on the back. I'm about the same distance from the gas tank on both sides. So it should be good there. And you can see right there, leaf spring. So what I was initially worried about was that this chunk of the leaf spring would come back and hit the pipe. And now I think I've got enough clearance. Now, just grabbing this, it's pretty solid now. I mean, it doesn't move around much. This side is a little more wiggly. Not much, but a little bit. And that's because of that bracket right up there. I had a really hard time with that one. I made this little hanger here and welded it to the pipe. But this rubber mount here is just a wee bit loose. So, we'll see. Other than that, I am really, really happy with it. I think it looks amazing. The welds, I think, turned out okay. They're not, pro. I need a lot more practice. But for what we're doing here, or what I'm doing here, I don't think I could have asked for any better. And the way it looks up under there. And like I said, eventually I'll go ahead and do the rest of this system. We'll get the rest of those pipes and some headers under there at some point. All right, let's get the jack stands out of here. Lower this thing down, double check our clearance, and then I got to, since I did an oil change here, I still have to put oil in it, and then we'll fire it up. Going up. I'm down. Oh, plenty of clearance. Both sides, the leaf spring is now higher than the exhaust. So that worked out perfectly. So I think that looks okay. It's still plenty high enough off the ground. It's not too close to the tires. I mean, it looks really, really close. Being a 1/4 inch off, that's not too bad. All right, 6 quarts of Valvoline 10W30 VOR1 and a Wix 1515 filter later. Sounds mean. Now let's try it with just the receiver here. Shooting water everywhere. All right, well, that was a heck of a project. It takes a little bit of time, patience, a little bit of money, not near as much as paying somebody else to do it until you start getting into the machines, obviously. Anyway, this has been a over 2-week project for me, 3 weeks, with like 2 months in planning and lots of practice. I would really appreciate any advice or techniques or, something for when I do the front half. I'm probably going to get some V-band clamp connectors. That way, the spot that right now is U-bolted, I can just cut off completely and then do the the header back to the muffler, and then between the muffler and what I've already installed, I can just do a V-band clamp or connection. Anyway, hey, I appreciate everybody stopping by. Again, suggestions for the channel, you know, anything you got, I appreciate all of the feedback. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Please hit the like and subscribe on your way out, and I'll see you on the next one. I totally forgot that I left this dumb little thing up in here on a magnet. Whoops-a-daisy.